Hello everybody. So this video is going to be about CorMedix, which is crashing right now, but it's going to be a little more scattered than that. And I want to ask one key question, which is, can you trust Medicare, or can you trust whoever the decision maker is being responsible for the reimbursement of your product? If you sell a product that's getting a reimbursement from the government, how much are you at risk of a decision, or how much does your future depend on a negotiation with a payer? And if that payer, for some reason, for some political reason, decides, oh, I don't want to pay for this, I'll pay for that this time, I won't pay for this. If a negotiation doesn't go your way, then you can have your business have a great reduction in outlook, a reduction in the outlook of revenue. Now, we always knew, I've said multiple times, that for CorMedix, their main product, DefenCath, was up for renegotiation in 2026, in the later half of 2026 to be exact. And I've assumed they would get something like between 90 and 120 a vial. They sell these vials for about $250 a vial. So perhaps a halving of the reimbursement that they get. But it's okay. They were having very, very high margins. Remember that, like more than 90% margins. But nonetheless, they spooked the market today. They spooked the market because they said, oh, well, they actually expect a bigger decline than was anticipated. And they're guiding for $320 million full year revenue next year. So I guess this year, 2026, they're planning for $320 million. Let's call it that. And they're right off the bat, saying there's going to be pressure on pricing, lower revenue in the second half of the year, because they have to negotiate with Medicare, and maybe that negotiation is not going to go full well. This process of negotiation, by the way, is very convoluted. There's a lot of third-party contractors that make decisions from regions to regions. It varies on the region. There's all sorts of politics, not political like Republican, Democrat, like politics, like a political process. It's a whole political process between the insurer and the company, and sometimes CMS decides when a company dies. You may remember QuantaFlo, right? QuantaFlo was a stock that I had covered a long time ago on the channel, who then turned into Bitcoin and went into Bitcoin, but CMS pretty much decided that QuantaFlo was going to die, and they stopped reimbursing, and then boom, the stock died. This is why these stocks are so risky. Nonetheless, CorMedix is a whole different story, because they bought a diversified portfolio. The Millenta acquisition, they bought a diversified portfolio of anti-infectious drugs, anti-infectious compounds. They have a whole portfolio. They're now a bigger company, and they want to do it. They don't want to be an anti-infection pharma company. That's the plan. That's what they're working on. That's what they're succeeding at, in my view. I thought that acquisition they did was really, really good. But nonetheless, today they're spooking the market, because the company, the product with which this company is historically associated with, may see pressure in the sales late in 2026. Now, they did mention that things will improve in 2027, they hope. And of course, they can only hope. But the problem is that when you rely on a payer, when you rely on CMS deciding how much they pay for this anti-infection product, the consumer is not the customer. The customer here is the government. The consumer wants to not get an infection. The consumer wants to not die at the hospital. The consumer wants to have no infection. I'm sure all dialysis patients would want CorMedix product. The problem is that it's not the consumer that pays, because the consumer has no money. It's the government that pays. And it's a whole political process as to whether you're getting reimbursed or not. And so as a result of that, now the revenue, they say $320 million. So I was expecting a bigger increase. So I moved it up. I had 120%. That's what I was expecting, 120%. Now I put it at 50%. Now you can see after the drop today, it's down 33% today. This stock is still dirt cheap. at a 0.055. It's still highly inexpensive of stock. And if you are a traditional value investor, the stock is trading at 5x expected EBITDA. 5x this year's EBITDA, like right now on 2026 EBITDA that they're guiding at 125 million. This company is trading 5x-ish, actually a little less than 5x EBITDA. Now, for an innovative company in the sector who has a patent, who's going to be sold at both DaVita and Fresenius, they're still sold at both dialysis centers. It's really a CMS story. Can Medicare be trusted? And Medicare can kill your product. That's a big problem. And this is where I get into HIMS. And by the way, I find the stock dirt cheap right now. And make no mistake, this short interest is probably adding to the decline. It's probably hurting the stock way more. This stock has reacted violently to news in the past, and I expect it will continue to, because it's thinly traded. Point is, why do I love HIMS again? Why is HIMS so genius? HIMS has no risk of Medicare deciding they're not gonna reimburse XYZ. Right, the ED drugs, the GLPs, the SSRI, the anti-anxiety, all of the drugs that they sell and the labs that they started selling now, and the testosterone treatment and the menopause treatment, everything that they sell is not subject to any government payer of any kind. So there is not that political process that goes on in the background. There is not that binary risk. With HIMS, you're not getting the binary risk of one government regulator saying we're not paying for this anymore. The risk with HIMS is, you really have to have a major headwind for the company to hurt, because you have 2.5 million individuals who make individual decisions. It's millions of individual decisions aggregated together into one revenue number, making economic decisions for themselves, not a political process, economic decisions for themselves via marketing. And so HIMS is down today for different reasons. HIMS is mostly down today because 3 hours ago, Bank of America released yet another bearish piece, right? And HIMS, remember, is more than 30% shorted, or about 30% shorted. So maybe BOA has a short. I don't know what's going on. I guess we're doing some layoffs with the search engine team or whatever. It's probably a good thing to be lean. I like these companies to be lean. I like the Elon Musk philosophy of you should always lay off maybe 10% more than you should, and then rehire them back. That way you know the exact size. This is a new company. They have growing pains. But no doubt, as far as the top line is concerned, it's 2.5 million individual decision makers who decide the fate. I love that very much, and I find these companies safer in general, despite the disappointment that HIMS has been for the past few months. I mean, it's still up 25% in 2025, roughly, right? A little more than 25%. I think it's up 27% in 2025. So HIMS is still up. We're still good with HIMS. It's just that, people were hoping for 100 sooner than it will. Because of his decisions too, this is another vote for the common. This is another reason why investors, in my view, when they deal with any health-related stock, any stock really at this point, you should just deal with the common and sit tight and wait. But that's what I think, right? No investment advice ever on this channel. OSCR, let's talk about OSCR again. OSCR's up. As you know, I've covered OSCR a few times on this channel. Why do I talk OSCR in the context of Medicare? Right, OSCR is not Medicaid, right? OSCR is ACA, Affordable Care Act. But it's a similar situation where this stock trades based on the whims of Congress. Is Congress going to vote something? Is Congress not going to vote something? Are the ACA subsidies going to be expended? Are they not going to be expended? Even though we know that OSCR in 2026, I saw they raised their premium by 28%, and they expect a little bit of attrition. Right, that's why the revenue growth number on OSCR is only 25%. But they raised their premium by 28% in 2026. So they don't need, OSCR doesn't need any extension. Extension is, I guess it's a pretty big cherry, but it's still the cherry on the cake. It would be a pretty nice cherry if they get extended. But the price of OSCR is pretty much trading based on the whims of the Senate and the House, and whether Congress is going to pass it or not. Right? And are we going to have another government shutdown on January 31st? right? I think the odds are pretty high we get another government shutdown. So imagine this stock trading with the whims of that. That's a problem. It's much more of a problem than when you have a stock who actually has millions, in the case of HIMS, millions of individual decision makers. And I prefer this stock very much. So can Medicare be trusted? The jury is still out, but a lot of people have decided to go away from reimbursed medical innovation for a long time. They decided to go away. I mean, you saw sickle cell disease treatment, a lot of these treatments that cost millions of dollars that Kathy Wood loves to invest in, they also are having tremendous problem with payers and people paying for permanent cures that are millions of dollars. And that's the problem of going for insurance. This is a problem HIMS doesn't have, which is why I love HIMS, which is why I call HIMS healthcare. I call HIMS healthcare. HIMS is not, budgeting the money of the government and trying to figure out who doesn't get help. You don't get help. Anyways, I ramble. This was it for this video. A very short video today. No investment advice, no financial advice, no health advice, no reimbursement advice. This is only entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on Patreon. Follow me next. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.